respected dear Sangha. Now you can open your eyes. In the Zen tradition, the question answer like the Zen battle. So you have to give the very hard question. So the brother and sister, they can answer your question, and this question can help you to overcome your difficulty, can help you to solve your sufferings, problem in your daily life. So what the question can bring the benefits for everyone, not only for one person, but can help many other people here or in the world when they go to YouTube. So don't be shy, just go up here, be brave, and you ask the question, and each question we will answer right away, one by one. So, they say yes. Okay. So, the question is not too much intellectual, because about Zen or Buddhism or something, you can go to Google, they can answer you all kind of question. But the question is the practice, about your practice in your daily life. And our brother and sister, with our experience, we wholeheartedly answer all your questions with love and understanding. So who volunteered? The first one will be brave to go up here. Oh, my sister, she remind me, if you feel shame or shy, you cannot go up here. You can sit in the back behind the camera, or you can write on the paper and you pass the message here, and we can answer in the paper as well. So please go up. We have the microphone here. You can come up here and sit and wait. You can if you be shy, then you can sit. Okay, please come up. I just talked to the people in now there.
Dear brothers and sisters, dear Thai and dear Sangha, my name is Pablo. So I have a difficult question. How do you heal a rift within the Sangha when there's a difficulty between the four parts of the Sangha? And the rift in particular, I'm thinking. Hello? Can you hear? Oh. If there's a difficulty between a lay person and a monastic. So, thank you. I'll repeat the question. So, how do you heal a rift within the Sangha, and particularly if a lay person and a monastic have difficulties? I ask this question because in Old Path White Clouds, there's a section that talks about a rift between two monastics, a sutra master and a precept master, but there isn't any sharings about a rift between a lay person and a monastic. So the rift would be maybe how the two parties understand and interpret the tradition, Plum Village, and the practice, and perhaps the struggle is with how the practice is evolving, and there may be differences in understanding of how that tradition, how the Plum Village tradition should be.
So maybe I can summarize the question just to give us a little bit of space and see if we actually understand your question. So when there is a difficulty between, a common view between a layperson and a monastic, how do we practice with that? Especially with regard to the tradition of Plum Village and the direction of Plum Village practice. Thank you.
So dear teacher, dear brothers and sisters, dear friends, thank you for the question. I'm just gonna share my part, and then if our sisters and brothers who wish to add on, please do so. That's a very, the question is very real because we live, when we live, we come together as a community to practice, and we come with different backgrounds, different ideas, and so conflict is due to arise. But luckily, we have practices that could help minimize and also to resolve. I think it when there is a drift or a difficulty among or between monastic or another, it probably be easier to resolve because we stay together. So and we know each other quite well, and so therefore you applying the practices can help us to resolve the situation might be more quickly. When there's a drift between a lay practitioner and monastic, is also it also depends on the environment. Is that lay person staying at the monastery in the monastic environment, or is the monastic staying in a lay environment? Or so it depends on the situation and the circumstance too. So my input would be more just general. I feel like with a lay person, if that lay person knows the practices well and practices them, then it might be easier to resolve the conflicts. But if a lay person doesn't know the practice or just barely know the practice and have a conflict, it might be more difficult because we're not on the same page. So I would just hypothetically establish a situation that this lay person knows the practice well and may even be practicing longer than the monastic, for example. And so in that case, when we know the practice, then if we practice them, then there's very little chance for conflicts because we will know how to resolve them within ourselves. But there are certain practices that we can utilize, and one comes to mind is the practice of beginning anew. And in the monastery, we practice that every 2 weeks. In some places every week, in some places once a month. And that's a chance for us to share out any difficulty that sits in our hearts, and not to wait too long. And so every 2 weeks is probably for us is about right. And when there's a lay person that comes to the monastery, and if he or she just stays here for 1 week, usually we don't include that person into the beginning of the session. But if they stay longer, 2 weeks or more, then we give them a chance to practice this beginning anew, so that if there's any difficulty sitting in their heart, they can share. And once we share out, and what we say might be a misperception or anything, but there is a space for us to share, and then that gives the other listeners a chance to listen, and also at some point to clarify the situation. And sometimes it just can be a misunderstanding. But in terms of the Plum Village tradition practices, our teacher wrote a lot of books and shared a lot about the different practices. If we read them and we practice and we have Dharma sharing about them, and I'm sure we'll be on the same page. So the resolution can happen one-on-one, if it's happened just to be 2 people, or it can be in a communal setting with a group of people, or even the whole Sangha present when we need to listen to a difficulty. So there are ways that we can go about to get to a resolution. The difficulty is to get over our pride, to actually come to the table and have a discussion. And so our teacher often shares with us that when there's a difficulty with another person, we should practice beginning anew within ourselves first. Reflect, meditate, reflect, do walking meditation, sitting meditation, and reflect about the situation and see what is our part in that. But there's always 2 sides, it can't just be one side. And so we can see what is it that we did that contributed to this difficulty. And we also look deeply into the other person or the other party and see the difficulty in that person or that party. And so when we do that, we prepare ourselves so when we actually come to share, we would be better at using loving words to share with the other person. And so in the setting of beginning anew, loving speech is used so that what we share can be listened to by the other person. And we also have a mediator if we don't want the situation to be resolved in the large group, or we can go one-on-one. We can ask for a third person who both of us know well, and we trust for the person to sit and listen. And it's just not to take sides, just to practice listening, and we have the chance to share. So just have that much to share with you, and maybe our sisters and brothers can add. Thank you.
Respected day and dear community, thank you for the question. To add to what my brother was sharing, when we conscientiously create that space to revisit our own views and to communicate them with openness to the other side, then it builds trust, even though there may be very seemingly opposing differences in our perspective. In the monastic community, and I'm sure many of us are in local sanghas, we encounter these questions. How to support our sangha, how to outreach, and we have different perspectives. Well, one of the guidelines that I've found very helpful from our teacher is always holding true to the middle way. I think in the United States, as an American, I tend to have this attitude, maybe because I'm more liberal, I feel I'm more liberal in many issues, that being progressive or liberal is actually a positive thing and being conservative is negative. Maybe some of us out there feel the opposite, that being conservative is actually a better thing and being progressive is not. But the middle way, as it comes back to this perspective of what kind of direction we want to take with our Sangha or our own personal practice, is that it's not necessarily one or the other, but it depends on the conditions. So at times when there are issues that come up, the progressive side of the Sangha will want to try something new that isn't a staid part of the practice, that wasn't maybe something that our teacher actually physically spoke or taught, but part of the Sangha feels that this is an application of the practice and a way of evolving the practice to make it more compatible with modern time. And it's in the spirit of our teacher, who has also evolved the practice, the mindfulness trainings, for example, so that it can fit the Western mentality, it can fit different environments. So in that circumstance, it's really not possible to say that to hold fast to a conservative way of the tried and true is necessarily the most suitable thing in that situation. But on the other side, when the community, there are issues and members of the community who feel the need to speak out their concern, maybe they feel that the direction of the community is going too quickly for the capacity of the community to try something new, for example, try a new practice, try a new project. It's also speaking out a reality of our community. So the concerns on both sides are very valid, and that's what helps us to honor that middle way, because there's a reason the middle way holds us safe, because it's inclusive. It is inclusive of both people's concerns and fears, and also other people in the community, other people's desire to evolve, change, and grow. So to speak out these things is to help the other side maybe let go a little bit of their emphasis and hold more sensitively those areas of fear or concern. So Tay has said that he is both a conservative and progressive. He's conservative in that he wants to preserve what is most beautiful and true in the Dharma doors. And he's progressive in that he wants to adapt those things so that it can meet as many people and situations as possible. And so as his students, we try our best to fill out all that space that he's offered for us. It's not always easy. And I think for me, the most difficult time is when I feel that my concerns are not being heard by the other side. So my part is to try my best to communicate them. And then the second part, as my brother said, is to try my best to listen more deeply, to hear what I might be missing in the other sides, the push and pull of being conservative or progressive. And lastly, I'd like to say that in different issues, I think we are all a little bit of both. There may be things that I feel very free with, but there are other things that I will pull back on. So we take turns in the community. It doesn't matter if it's monastic and lay or monastic, or as a wake-up group. We take turns to offer up a safety stop or a motivation to move forward and outward. Thank you.
So the next question, please go up. Who would like to ask the next question? Yeah, please go.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, brothers and sisters, my name is Claire, and my question is, how does one be with a loved one as they're expressing deep suffering, and be with them in such a way that you are helping them lessen their suffering, but not taking that suffering on in your own heart, like internalizing that, like soaking it up in a way.
So dear respected Thai, dear Sangha, I think this question very good question, because we would like to help people to release their suffering. Many people we have this kind of loving kindness and compassion in each of us, especially the brother and sister. We practice deep listening, the practice of listen to on the suffering in the world. But how can we listen but we don't take the suffering of the other to ourselves? In the past, when I first became a monastic, and the first deep listening, that's when I, with the group of brother and sister, we sat together and listened to one lady from England. She shared her suffering. And after the sharing, I could not bear it, because her suffering is full of abuse, sexual abuse, violence, she took drugs, and alas, but look her outside very beautiful and like the angel. But when we listen, I don't know why such of suffering come to her life, and her story keep repeats in my mind. So I share with my teacher about my suffering when I listen to her suffering. Because what she shared, she been abused by her father, her brother, and she took drugs, She been violated by her father Jew. And for me, the first time when I hear that, I saw, oh my goodness. Because for my mind, I think that our parent is the people who love us and taking care of us. How can they abuse the child? And how come the blood family abuse you like that and beating her, you know? But my teacher said that when we want to practice listen to the other suffering, we should nourish us a lot of peace and happiness in ourselves. If you don't have enough peace and happiness, and you receive the suffering from others, it's like you accumulate the suffering inside of you, and you cannot bear it. Because inside of you, you don't have space to receive it, and you cannot digest, because your mind is not space, don't have space, like the earth full of rust, and now you put more rust in there, you know. So the rust have a chance to grow. Because inside of me, I also have carried some suffering inside of me. I do not have a chance to transfer my suffering in the past from my country or from my family or from my friends. I also carry some suffering inside of me. I still have some anger, jealousy, many other things. And now I listen to more suffering. It's like I carry the burden. Now I have carried another burden. Why I'm not free inside? So I learned from my teacher that from that day, I be careful to listen to suffering from others. Because if inside of you don't have space, you don't have much happiness, you don't have peace, you cannot listen the suffering from others. And so our mind has to have a lot of space, like a bag without, bottom. You know, what you put inside, it can go out. It's not hold it. So I need to train my mind like a bag without bottom, a whole bag. So, and at the same time, I nourish me with meditation, like sitting meditation, walking meditation, eating meditation. So during the time I sitting, I walking, I eating, I practice mindfulness. I generate mindfulness in me stronger, and I have more space inside. Also, at the same time, I nourish me a lot of happiness, like I enjoy the Sangha gathering, enjoy the nature. And so inside me, I have enough space, time, and happiness. So now when I listen to a lot of suffering, but at the same time, I do practice myself. I release it. I don't hold it. And I listen with love and compassion, so I can carry the suffering from the other, but it's not affecting me. So the practice of self-love also very important. If you don't love yourself, you cannot love others. If you don't understand yourself, you cannot understand the others. I listen to many people suffering. When we have consultation, or when I see someone else, they came to me and they sharing. I listen, but then I let go. I don't hold it in myself. So I don't feel suffering. I let go. And at the same time, when I listen, I also I practice. So when you have stability inside of you, you can give the people the advice from your clear mind, understanding. Because if you still have suffering inside, you don't have clear mind, so you cannot give the people advice. So very important that you take care yourself first. Establish yourself with stability, practice, freshness, very important, happiness, and then you have enough energy, enough space to help the other people. So I hope that this sharing can give you the tip you can practice when you go home. Yeah. Thank you. Our brother and sister who would like to ask.
Hi everybody, my name is Joseph. Really thankful to have this opportunity to ask the question in front of everybody. My question is, I'm sure this is the Dharma family as well, but to put it here, in the process of healing suffering, I find that that process can be very, very painful, and there can be a lot of doubt and uncertainty and just pain, and is it possible to heal and also be happy, and is it possible to be in the uncertainty of the healing and also enjoy the practice, or like I find there's like a duality between like maybe seeing a result, like I want to heal this, but then like in this moment, the practice of breathing and being happy and smiling, and then relating this to the world suffering, like there's so much problems, climate change, and like people suffering, like hunger, and so much, everyone knows, and it's the reality, but how is it possible to hold that suffering of like trying to heal it, trying to do something, but then also knowing that in non-doing and just being is like true happiness, but like the process of healing is still a process. So I get stuck in that, like, oh, there's a process of healing, but if I just don't do anything, then happiness right here, but there's still like things to work through, things to talking with people and myself, and I just get very confused. So yeah, right now if I talk about it too much, then I just feel confused. So right now I talked about it enough to get confused, so hopefully that's the question. Thank you.
Good morning, dear Thầy, dear sisters, dear brothers, and dear friends. I try my best to answer the question. I grew up and was born in Vietnam. That's why my Vietnamese is very good, but my English still become too bad. And when we was born, we don't know how to suffer because our family, our parents to suffer for us already. But when we grow up, We suffer because we receive a lot of information around the world, around the family, around your friend. But if you want to healing and stop suffering, you need to practice. If you don't know how to practice, it suffer a lot in yourself. And your suffer will make your friend and your member in your family suffer too. And when I was young, when my mom passed away, I suffer a lot. I just want to my mom be there with me. But not true. She passed away, she died already. That's why I want to stand in my 2 feet. And I joined the monetary life and practice to do the sitting, to do the walking, to be with my brothers and sisters. And thus I less suffer. Sometimes you suffer, you don't know how to go out that suffer. You don't know how to heal that suffer. Because you don't know how to practice. If you know how to accept you accept the other person, accept your member in family, accept your friend. Sometimes you want them become the perfect people, become like you. Someone to do different from your idea, you suffer. Someone to don't follow you, you suffer. And sometimes you receive the information from the internet, you suffer too. But if you know to do the small thing, to help people, to help your friend, to help your family, to become the good person, it's a lot of that the big gift for your family, for your friend. It's when you go out to walk in the park. If you see the people need your help, you can help them. That one make you less suffer and make the people more happy. We can offer our love, our compassion for everyone. I come from a different tradition. I joined to Plum tradition. Before I grew up in the old tradition, I have some suffer. I want to become the lovely monk, but sometimes some people make me suffer. I don't know how to deal with that. But when I joined with the Plum Sangha, I know how to deal with that suffer by the walking meditation, be with the brothers and sisters, do the sitting meditation. If you want to deal the suffer, you can come here and join with the brothers and sisters and learn how to deal with that from by the mindful step, by the mindful sitting, when someone know how to practice, but when you go back to the normal life, you forget everything. But I have an idea. If you want to practice, you need some reminder by join the sangha, or you can write something in your family, at your house, or you can learn some gatha to practice. If you want to practice breathe, you can write a smile and breathe. When you wake up, you can see that word, and you practice right away. There's some step like that. You can make your more happy and less suffer. Thank you very much, and maybe my sisters and brother help you understand more. Thank you.
The teacher, the communities, I just want to add a little bit. There's an image comes to mind. It's like when you have a wound and you want it to heal, you do everything you can to start that process. And so we have to trust the process of healing. And it takes a little bit of pain to heal. And that doesn't mean that you just focus yourself on the healing process and not anything else. The example would be if I have a cut and I put some medicine on it and a Band-Aid, I don't just sit there and stare at it until until it's healed. I did all I can, but I have to trust the process of healing. I have to trust my body. I have to trust the environment to help it to heal. And then I go do something else. And as you said, when you go something else, that means, for example, we do other things to nourish joy. It's very impractical just to sit there and wait until the wound heals before I would do anything else. Life doesn't wait for us. We sometimes we have to do different things, but we try our best and we put in all the conditions for things to manifest, and it's up to the universe to have it manifest or not. But the trust in the process is also part of the ingredient. If I put a Band-Aid on and then I take it off every 5 minutes and put it back on again, it would take a long time to heal. But I put the Band-Aid on and I'll go and sing a song, play guitar, sing a song, or go water the flowers, do something different that takes my mind off the pain that the healing process needs. And I dwell my mind on the beautiful thing, the positive things, the joyful things, just to get it, off of this. And then I come back and nurse it again. And so I think trust would be a big thing. And if we want healing, we need to go through a little bit of pain. Thank you.
Sorry, I just want to ask a little more thing. Like Brother Phap Khoi share, I want to, because this is we learn from our teacher, is very concrete. When your mind, your suffering arise, your pain arise. So like Brother Phap Khoi said, you put the Band-Aid on. So this is another way you turn the other channel in your mind. Like you carry the thinking of the suffering, then you turn the other channel, like, okay, suffering, are you alright again? Hello, my suffering. I will see you later, now I cannot. So I will do another thing. You tell yourself, and then you can go out, like Brother Phap Khoi share. You can play the guitar or looking the sky, and then when you stronger, when you rise again, and then you can send your love, compassion. Sometimes you need to look inside of you, the wounded, like a little child, the baby is suffering, is crying. It is not. He needs to embrace him, carry him. So you look at your suffering like you might, maybe, you love them, you lullaby, the suffering will go down. And then the second time you come again and you lullaby you. And then when it's completely healed, you're looking deeply into the root of your suffering. Why you suffer? Why this make me pain? Why is always there? It's not only lullaby, but you need to looking deeply into the root of the suffering. And because when you, that time your mind is strong, so you can, your mindfulness strong and your wisdom, your insight clear, you can see the suffering. And then you release, transform your suffering from that. So it's not sometimes the people carry their wounds for their whole life and they transmit to their generation, the next generation, because they don't know how to practice. But if we are the practitioner, we need to practice and uproot the suffering, so you don't have to transmit your suffering into your next generation, your children, or your grandchildren. So this is the practice of mindfulness, concentration, and insight. Yeah, thank you.
Dear Thai, dear brothers and sisters, dear Sangha, my name is Audrey. I'm very surprised to be up here. And I will try to communicate this question that I have as clearly as I can. As a member of groups that experience oppression, in my case, as a woman, as a person of color, it is part of my experience to have sometimes overt forms of oppression, but also just microaggressions. And even in a wonderful place as Blue Cliff, I do experience them. And working with the feelings that come up after experiencing microaggression, whether, well, not intended, I'm reminded of sayings that people will say were like, why, don't take it so personally. And of course that only makes me angrier. And then I think, well, maybe I shouldn't be taking it so personally, because our teachings in some sense ask us to recognize that we are not our bodies, we are not our form. But that seems a chasm away from me, from feeling, from understanding. And so as much as I wish I could recognize that people are reacting to my form and not me, and that if I had that composure, then I could even turn that moment into a teachable moment where I could give a gift of, let me reflect back to you what you just said and kind of explain, if you would be so kind to listen. But I could not do that because I feel a chasm between myself, because the fact is I feel threatened. As a woman and as a person of color, I feel like I need to protect myself. literally, I need to protect my body, I need to protect my identity because it always feels like it's under threat. And so it feels in total opposite of the teachings, and I don't know what practice I can use to bridge that gap. So any wisdom on that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Dear community, thank you for the question. See, I think I ordained in 99, so it's been 18 years or so. Is it already? Yeah. And the more I'm in the Dharma, the worse I am at math, obviously. So it's been a long journey in ways of self-exploration and coming to understand more who I am not, and how to navigate in spaces. So one of the many gifts of Dharma practice is it gives us a multitude of answers. We don't necessarily have to rest in one way of defining or understanding ourselves, because we more and more explore our interrelationship with our environment. So that line between who I am and who you are, who I am not, and even who you think I am, it's not as clear for me as it was before when I first began to practice. And that's freeing in a way. And this is not to say that these questions of identity, whether it's with regard to ethnicity, skin color, gender, orientation, are not important, because these are all this is just my perspective, but these are all very valid markers of coming to understand our way, our path in the world, how we've come to define ourselves. But it's not an end point. Right now, how I define myself is not how I will define myself or see myself in the future. So that fluidity that Dharma practice offers us is kind of like a buoy that I hold to. Part of our strengthening or resilience, growing our resilience in the face of a fluid identity, is knowing when we have the strength to address issues within us or interpersonally with other people. And there's a fluidity in that too. There are times when there's enough clarity in my mind. Maybe this is to rephrase what Audrey was saying. Where do we, quote unquote, where do we draw the line? It's not a set thing. Depends on our space and our capacity at the time, our skillfulness in connecting. For example, if we speak to someone a truth deeply held in us, or a difficulty deeply held in us, but the other side is not yet in that space to really hear, listen, even hear and understand, then it might be more harmful. So a skillful approach is to assess, not to draw an absolute line, but to really abide with that conditional way of life. Out in the world we say we pick and choose our battles. And in opening our heart, in Dharma engagement, it's the same. We pick and choose our personal battles and our engagement with those out in the world, because it's actually very personal. It's not an issue. It's not when we talk about social justice work, it's not really an issue. At the heart, it's a personal involvement. So if we have enough clarity, then it's better time to engage outward. And if we don't, it's better to take care of the things inside of us. One way that I gauge my capacity to see is the degree to which my emotions are controlling me. So we may have an interaction in our daily life where someone says something that triggers us in whatever way, anger or defensiveness or hurt. Right in the moment, if we have enough clarity, it means we recognize that that emotion has come up. We're able to call it and, in a way, hold it, and at the same time see the other person in a holistic way. If we see that our reaction with that emotion is leading us directly to an attitude of judgment, a manifestation of irritation, anger, then it means that our clarity, meaning our best self, when the sediment has dropped, it's not yet there. So these are very concrete ways we can gauge. I need to take care of my heart, my mind, to come back to that place of clarity. And then, in a fluid way, the conditions will be better for me to engage. Lastly, I'll say that this is one of the reasons it's helpful to always be attentive to our environment, to keep an eye out for Sangha, elements that support our sense of safety and trust. We all have the best intentions when we come to Sangha, to create that space for others, but as human beings, we all have different affinities, past experiences that make us a bit blind to other people who maybe have had different experiences, a bit blind to their areas of injury or past experiences. So within Sangha there are pockets, even in our monastic Sangha there are pockets, affinities that we can connect with. So to practice wisely is to keep an eye out for those who we know who have our back, who we don't have to explain everything from A to Z for them to get to know. And to also realize that, there will be times when that is unavoidable. But it's an open-ended question and an open-ended answer. But thank you for bringing up that sensitive question.
Dear Thai, dear Sangha, dear brothers and sisters, my name is Laura. I wanted to share a question about a suffering that I've been experiencing very strongly lately, and I think is one that I think many of us probably experience, and that is a deep suffering around the fear of climate change and the environment. I feel a lot of fear, a lot of anger, a lot of despair, and a lack of control when I think about it. And I realized actually at one of our wake up meetings in Toronto about, it was on Earth Day, and we were celebrating all these lovely things about the earth, and I shared a lot of suffering and despair. And I know there's a lot of talk about the middle way, but I find it very difficult when it comes to matters of the environment to recognize the middle way. So I'm from Canada. Our Prime Minister just announced a new pipeline that was approved, and that was his way of doing the middle way. There were a lot of people that would have been really upset if that didn't go that way. He's not approved some other pipelines. So it's his way of compromise. But I'm finding it really, really difficult to kind of work through the fact that even though I try to do my little part and I activate people to do their part, it just feels very hopeless, and I don't know how we're going to fix the problem. So I just wanted to share my suffering and wanted to hear your feedback on some of the ways to move forward and to take care of that. Thank you.
The teacher, the community, dear Laura, thank you for your question. This is a difficult question, as our sister prefers. I would just share a little bit of input, and maybe our sisters and brother could add in. I feel fortunate to practice Buddhism, because in Buddhism there's a wonderful teaching about the ultimate truth and the conventional truth. And they're not mutually exclusive, they actually inter-are. And I will give an example that I often give, and that is the sunrise and the sunset. On the side of the conventional truth, we see that there is a sunrise and a sunset, so they seem like separate. And we enjoy, many of us enjoy both the sunrise and the sunset. But if we look deeply, we will see the ultimate truth, and that is there is actually no sunrise or sunset. It's just because of where we are, we're on the earth. And from this vantage point, we see, it looks as though the sun was rising and the sun is setting, so we name it that. But the fact is that the sun is just there, but we actually move around. And so having that knowledge that the sun doesn't set or rises, does it take us away from enjoying the sunrise and the sunset? It doesn't. We still enjoy it, but we know that it's actually not. Is that the sun actually, when we see it rise, it's already risen 8 minutes ago or something, science tells us. And that just means that having that knowledge of both the conventional truth and the ultimate truth help us to live our lives in a more meaningful way. If I did not know the ultimate truth and I enjoy the sunrises, or I enjoy the sunsets, for example, and one is already set, I became sad. Oh, no more, I can't see the sun anymore, and I become sad, and I have to wait another 24 hours to experience that joy again. But knowing that, you know, it will come back, and I will experience that. So I don't suffer, or I suffer less. And this teaching we can apply in our daily lives. We need both the conventional truth in order to function, but we live and be in touch with the ultimate truth so that we don't suffer as much, because we know that everything is interconnected. And when we have that as our foundation, and when we look at issues such as climate change, the conventional truth would tell us that, yeah, if we don't change our way, we're going to go extinct. But the ultimate truth will tell us that it's okay to go extinct, because the earth will regenerate herself. In a few million years, we might manifest back. And so it's okay. If that is what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen. But having known that, that doesn't mean that we become indifferent. I was just going to live carelessly because the world's going to end anyway. No, I still live, I'll still do my part, and you still do your part to try to nourish life as much as we can, and that's all we can do. And then spread this insight. And that's why we have retreats like this, especially for young people, for you guys, to share with you the practice of mindful living, so that you can do your part in helping to lengthen the life of the world. And if you come back to your environment, you share the same teaching, the same practices with your friends, your co-workers, the people in your circle, the ripple effect will take place. And that's what we try to do here. We open retreats year-round, and we're sharing with people how to practice, how to be more mindful, how to live their life more mindfully. We're doing our part, and that's all we can do. But having the understanding that, yeah, if one day it ends, it's okay. We trust the world, we trust the earth that she's going to rejuvenate herself as she has done for millennia. Yeah, thank you. Maybe our sisters and brothers can add.
So, dear respected dear friends, I think we have on the last question, because we would like to end the right time for the organizing team, right? Yeah, the organizer, she shook her head. Yeah. So this is the last question. Sorry, I think you can bring to your Dharma sharing group, and you can bring the question. Yeah. So we will see you next year. You can. Next year you will be the first person to ask, okay? So everyone happy. Thank you. So now we listen to one sound the bell, and the last question we speak to.
Dear Thai, dear brothers and sisters, dear Sangha, my question is in regards to world peace. I've come to the realization that there's a lot of suffering in the world, and throughout history and throughout civilization, there's always been conflict and war and battle, such. And at first that bothered me a lot, and I really just wished we could have a peaceful time in our world. But then I, came to a point where I realized I can just create my own peace, and through my own contributions, and through joining a Sangha and taking on a practice. And I have
cultivated peace and a community. But I still just can't help but wonder, will mankind just ever get over our first layer of consciousness that kind of makes us defensive and reactive and ignorant and racist and all of those things? And can we ever just all live in peace and harmony in some lifetime? Thank you.
Dear respected Thai dear Sangha, I just want to make sure the question I understand, so we share, but I hope my sister and brother will ask at the end. Your question asked that the world has so much suffering around, and how can you create peace for yourself? Or how you live harmony with your beloved one, no violence, no this. I think this very good question, very important question. Because when she asked, and in my mind, I'm thinking of some people, I don't say that everyone, I just say some. Some people we only thinking that we would like to fight for peace. We want to fight for freedom, or we want to bring peace to the world. But sometimes we need to look deeply into our personal, when we live with our family, our beloved one, like spouse, husband, wife, children, parents, sister, brothers. Do you have peace when we live with the people next to us? And we think we want to bring peace to the world. And even ourselves, sometimes we have war inside of ourselves. Sometimes we conflict, we struggle inside of ourselves, but we didn't see it. We just look out and we find the peace for the other people around us, but we never see we also not peace at all in ourselves. So this I learned from my teacher. He always asked me, do you love your sister, your brother, your Sangha? So I cannot answer. Sometimes I say yes, but I have conflict with some of sister around me. I conflict with some of brother around me. And then I cannot say I want to go and help the world, saving the world, help the world to overcome the suffering. And my teacher said, if you cannot love your sister, you cannot love your neighbor. Your beloved one next to you. If you don't love, you cannot love your neighbor around you. So it's the same thing. If we don't have peace, we cannot create peace in the world. Like we want to protect environment, with all the environment pollution, but the way we live is not mindful at all. We consume a lot, we make a lot of garbage, and we eat a lot of meat. We eat a lot of, something is damage environment, pollution. So to create peace around us, first we need to create peace in ourselves. Yeah, every day, every day, at beginning of the day, I find a time to make peace for myself in the morning, to have my space and time. So if I have space and time in the early morning, the whole day, I will have space and time for the other people around me. But in the morning when you wake up, you hurry and you do something not peace. And during the whole day, you will find something not peace. So peace, first we need to create peace in ourselves. Every day, everyone, you can create peace for yourself during the day. You sit there, drink a cup of coffee in mindfulness. You drink and you enjoy the taste. You breathe, you look at the sky. 5 minutes peace in yourself. So you can smile for the whole day. You're free. But if you begin the day with hurry, doing some work, you don't feel peace. So, I try to make peace for myself every day. I learn to make peace for myself, and pray become the habit energy. So this is the good habit energy. So when you have peace in yourself, then you have love in yourself, understand in yourself. So the same thing as you protect environment, I very agree what Brother Khoi said. If we want to protect environment, we need to ourselves protect environment first. We save electric, we save water, even we live in the country with the loss of modern, convenient life, but we're thinking of the country, they don't have water to spend, they have electric to use. But we so luckily we have everything, but we need to think of the people. They don't have a drop of water. The people who live in the mountain, in the very country, the water very precious for them. But here we turn on the tap, we don't mindful, just let the water flow. But a drop of water very precious for the people. I witness the people who don't have water to spend. They use the water in the river and dirty. They use water to cook, to wash, to eat, to drink. So protect environment is not by amount, but by the way we living, by the way we see, the way we thinking. Also, if we want to create peace to ourselves, we also create peace in the way we live with our beloved one around us. Of course, sometimes you will create mistake. You may say some word not unkind, but it's okay. You can forgive yourself, and you correct, and you make it. You will do it better next time. You don't say the unkind words or do unkind thing. So this is the practice. I just share like this. It's not mean every one of you has to be perfect. You be like this, like this. You can practice step by step. Yeah, you can practice protect environment, create peace in yourself. So you don't need to worry or need to be perfect, but you can step by step. You will doing better, and then slowly you will have peace in yourself, and you have your happiness, your free time. But you need to practice. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I feel that I talk too much. Thank you for listening, and we hope that this retreat will bring you a lot of peace and happiness. And thank you, brother and sister, who shared the question and answer this morning. So we will see you next year again. So now we will listen to three sound the bell and we end up our question and answer.